Hello, welcome to Aging Well in America. I'm Anne-Marie Guattari, your host, and I wanted to mention some of the statistics about our aging population. Every day in the United States, 7,000 people turn 65 years old. Today there are 5.5 million people over the age of 85. In the year 2040, there will be more than 20 million people aged 85 or older. So we ask, are we ready? Is America ready to handle and to deal with this aging, growing population? There's so much good work going on around the world and right here in our own community. And Wayne State's Institute of Gerontology is one of the most active institutions and resources that is working and helping to come up with solutions. With us today is Cheryl Deep from the IOG, who's going to help us talk to us about how we can help keep our brains young. So Cheryl, welcome to Aging Well in America.
Oh, it's a pleasure to be here.
Great.
And as you said, so many older adults, and at the Institute of Gerontology, we're trying very hard to be ready and to prepare other people to be ready.
So I know there's a lot of serious research that goes on at the Institute, but there's also a lot of fun that results from that, and one of them is your program, which we call lovingly Brain Neurobics. So tell us a little bit about the brain and how exercising it can have an impact.
Well, as you said, brain neurobics, which is kind of a play on the aerobics word, because aerobic exercise is so important to us everywhere. So we're trying to keep the brain fit and keeping it simple and keeping it fun, something that every older adult can embrace. And in order to do that well, first you have to understand a little bit about the brain and how it works and what's special about the brain compared to other parts of our body. So I do have a slide that can show us a neuron.
Okay.
And as the slide comes up, you'll see that neurons are special kinds of cells that have finger-like projections. And so unlike other cells in our body that just nest up against each other, these neuron cells, because they have these projections coming out, they can interact with many, many other cells in the body. So we have 100 billion neurons in our brain. Everybody's brain is about the same size. That's a lot of neurons. And those 100 billion neurons can make 100 trillion connections because of the way they interact with electrical impulses. So that's a lot of connections. And the really interesting and important news that's come out in the last 10 years is that the brain is not stagnant. The brain continues to grow and develop throughout our lives. We used to believe that at some point after age 5 or 6, that the brain growth pretty much stopped. There might be some pruning of what had been there, but there would not be any new cells. Now we know better. We know that until the late 20s, there's a lot of active growth in the front parts of the brain, where we have impulse control and judgment. And we also know that in the hippocampus area, kind of in the center of the brain, we make new neurons until the day we die.
Really?
So yeah, so that really is good news.
So, and we do have there are things, we do have a certain amount of control over making those new neurons. It's not just a matter of what we're dealt genetically.
Absolutely. And the only way you make new neurons is if you need them. It's like building muscle. You know, if you don't lift things, the muscle deteriorates and those cells go away. If you start lifting again, you can build new muscle. Well, you have to stimulate the brain to make these new neurons. And most of us kind of get lazy as we get older, and we don't have as many opportunities for stimulation.
Just like everything, we just try, we tend to slow down and do less of what we had been doing. But this is one area where we really shouldn't give up on.
Absolutely. And the beauty of this program that we've taken to many community centers and senior centers in the area and are happy to bring anywhere that they're interested in it free of charge is that it's simple. These are easy changes you can make in your life that can make perhaps a profound effect, can actually change the structure and the function of the brain.
Really? Okay, well, you've got some experiments here.
Yeah,
so
I have
let's
some
take a
props.
look.
I have brought some props. So let me talk to you a little bit about the specifics of brain neurobics. I have another slide that talks a little bit about
Okay.
that with a cute picture of a brain, yes, on an exercise bike. That's what we're trying to do, is get your brain onto an exercise bike
There
to
you
get
go.
it moving. There is science behind it. Dr. Lawrence Katz is a neurobiologist, and he devised it. Some of what we're going to play with here will stimulate the brain, but there are some other important things you need to do for your brain to make sure this works well. And one thing we can all do is try to avoid stress. That's very critical.
Easier said than done.
Easier said than done, absolutely. But when we're stressed, it affects our memory. We make a stress hormone called cortisol, and it can very much impact the way that short-term memories are laid down as long-term memories. So we really have to relax and take it easy. And people know that when
Right.
they're in situations like this, say, being videotaped. They can't remember anything suddenly because the camera's on them. Stress will do that. Sleep is very important. 70% of the activity of the brain happens at night while we're sleeping. And if you don't get good, deep sleep, you can't sort and filter memories and organize them in such a way that you can bring that information back when you need it. So the brain is very active at night. You have to get good sleep. Exercise, physical exercise, always important. The brain is, in the earlier slide we talked about the oxygen needs of the brain. And even though it's only about 1 to 1.5% of our whole body, it takes up 20% of all of the oxygen. It's really an oxygen hog. And so physical exercise that can make the blood flow and get the oxygen pumped up into the brain is critical.
So actually the last three things you said, to me they seem interrelated. Stress is bad, sleep is good, exercise is good. And one way to avoid or at least try to minimize stress is sleep and exercise.
Absolutely
so
right.
the three really do have a causal relationship.
They work in tandem and they all augment each other.
Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
very true. And the last very important thing, if anybody doesn't know this yet, they really should, is to stop smoking. Smoking is bad for every organ in the body and in particular the brain.
Yeah, well, enough can't be said about the implications of smoking. I'll just mention briefly, I've talked about my mother before and I've written about her. She recently passed. She smoked for 50 years, 50, and from about age 75 on, we noticed her cognitive ability began to diminish.
And was she still smoking?
No, she stopped at the age of 70
Okay.
because she had to, but she started at 20, so 50 years. Her last 15 years of her life, I would say, were not very fun for her. COPD, congestive heart failure, dementia, and diabetes.
Wow.
And the last 2 years, we were caring for her 24/7. And I attribute a lot of that, the beginnings of it anyway, to smoking. And she did too.
And if she hadn't stopped when she did, it might have even been worse.
Yes,
Yeah. So
yes.
I encourage people, even
So,
if you're in your
okay.
50s, 60s, stop smoking. Your
Our
brain doesn't like it.
non-smoking
Yes, there you go.
advertisement. So, okay.
So brain neurobics, one of the basics of it is to try to get the right and the left lobes of the brain to talk to each other, the hemispheres, to
Okay.
cross over and make those new connections. So some of the fun things we do, and I'm going to ask you to be
Uh-oh.
part of
All
that.
right. Here I'm getting a test.
Is to try and take advantage of the non-dominant hand. So if you're right-handed, it would be your left hand. If you're left-handed, it would be your right hand. You are right-handed.
I am.
So we're going to have you try something with your left hand, and
Okay.
your left hand only. In the class, we do this note card, name card, and they have to write their name, and there we give them markers because it's easier to do this with a marker than a pen. Use your left hand and just write your name. You can print it, or you can use cursive if you're good at that.
All right. I'm going to print it.
And we find that there's great variability within classes. Some people are pretty good at it, just naturally, are a little ambidextrous, and other people really, really struggle just with this part of it. And that's not bad. Yeah, spacing got a little squished toward the end, but
not
that's
too
the whole
bad.
separate issue. You have a long name, and that's pretty good.
Okay. All right.
Okay,
Not
so
too bad.
did you ever, when you were younger, break your right hand?
No,
And-
never.
Okay, you
I
never
have
had to go
always,
through that.
always left used my right hand and right.
So you're
okay.
kind of balanced in your ability. Now we make it a little
now
harder.
I know what you're going to ask me to do. And
Yeah,
this
you
is
see
gonna
the
be
mirror that I have
really
here.
hard.
We ask people to turn it over on the other side so you can't even cheat and look at your name. And it's called mirror writing.
Okay.
And so each letter is flipped around, and then the order of the letters
Right.
is backwards
Okay.
to forward. So that when I hold it up to this mirror, it should look perfect.
All right. I'm going to just use the first. I'm just going to
Just do
write
the
and
and.
because
Okay. N's are tricky. N's and S's can be very tricky.
okay, this was kind of easy.
Now you got it. Yeah.
That I could really
See?
have.
That worked. Looks good. Okay.
All right. I
Great.
gave myself an easy way to do it though.
Well, the name that I demonstrate it with is my daughter's Hope, which is very easy too.
Yeah,
because my
because-
own Cheryl is a little trickier.
Yeah,
so
like
I
an
choose
A,
hers.
you know, it goes both ways.
Right.
All
Exactly.
right. But let me ask you a question about that. Why is it important to use your non-dominant hand? What does that do to your brain?
Well, over the years, because we've used the dominant side, some more than others, our brain kind of gets in a rut. And so it's done the same thing over and over again. Every day the routine is the same. And again, it's like that pathway that you make through the woods. It's easy, that's the way the brain is going to want to go, and you have to force it into the underbrush in order to get it to do new things and stimulate growth. So using that other hand on a daily basis forces it out of the rut. So we encourage people, we give a tips sheet of many things that they can do. Brush their teeth with their left hand.
Easy
They're
enough.
non-dominant. Comb their hair. Try to button the buttons on their shirt when they're dressing in the morning, give themselves a little extra time. What I really like to encourage is eating with your non-dominant hand, because that serves two
Not
purposes.
if you're wearing something that can't get dirty.
Right. At home where no one's watching, not at a fine restaurant, unless you get very good at it, which you will over time. I promise you that within a week or two, you see this enormous improvement in ability, and you'll be able to write and do these things and brush your teeth almost as well with your non-dominant as your
And as
dominant.
silly as that seems, you're actually
You're building neurons and you're building new
doing-
connections. Yes, stimulating
Interesting.
some brain growth.
great.
The eating, with the other hand, also slows you down. So if you eat slower and you savor your food more, maybe you don't need to worry about weight gain as much. It also stimulates the senses, which is another part of brain aerobics that we like. We try to fool the senses a little bit. So if you're eating, close your eyes for a second, just try and smell the smells of the food, use your taste buds, taste it, try to identify it just by smell and taste. Then maybe if you're watching television, turn the sound off the TV, try to guess what they're saying just by the visual, or close your eyes and have the sound up and try and guess what's happening just by the sound. So you keep just focusing in on one sense over another in order to build that sense. And
So
stimulate it.
two things popped in mind, listening to the radio as opposed to TV,
Yes,
right?
yes. Especially if it's a radio show that tells a story.
Exactly, like
Prairie Home Companion.
or,
Exactly.
and foreign films with the subtitles.
With the subtitles,
right?
yes.
Watching those on a regular basis.
Yeah, that's very stimulating because you have to take in the visual and then read also. So you're
You know,
you're
it's interesting,
back and
as you
forth.
do that too, you really do get better at it. Even from the beginning to the end of the movie, there's a cadence where you are seeing only what you really need to see because you have to give yourself time to read too.
You noticed that. And that segues so beautifully into my next slide,
Good.
which is called the Stroop Effect,
Okay.
which for certain people, some people are more visual and some people are more language-oriented, language
Right.
skills, so more words versus
Okay.
the look of something. So the Stroop Effect is a test that they actually give for ADD, ADHD to judge how well people concentrate and focus. And one time through, you would read the words and ignore the colors. So if you'll just try that on that first column,
Okay.
just read the words.
Red, orange, green, brown, pink.
You did that very well. I would guess you're much more of a language person.
I think so.
Now you go down the same line and tell me the color and not the word.
Red, oh, see, I did it.
Easy to do.
Green, blue, orange, blue, orange.
See how you really had to take your time.
And I had studied that, by the way. I
Oh,
knew you were
I
going to
didn't
do
know
that. Oh, for heaven's sakes, not until I said it out loud did I really realize how
how hard it is
difficult
to do.
it is.
And I've done that same listing of them a few times, and I still stumble on a couple. I start to get fast in the middle, and then I get one. As soon as my brain stops really concentrating, then I'm out of luck. So there's a website at the bottom if people are interested, and it will generate new Stroop Effect charts so that you can keep practicing and try to time yourself and see how fast
This
you
is
can
a
get
good
through
one.
it.
This is a really good
Yeah, I
one.
really
You could
like this
almost
one,
just
too.
put this up in your home or in your office and glance at it and just say it out. But saying it out loud is key, right?
You have to say it out loud.
Yeah,
Yes,
yeah.
exactly.
Great. Okay. All right. Very good. Very good.
We have some other games that people, if they're interested, ways to stimulate their brain through games. One we like a lot is Scattergories, which you can buy at Target, at any store that sells toys. And it's a great multi-generational game. And it forces you to, according to certain, a letter is chosen, say it's the letter N, and then you have a certain amount of time and you have to answer questions, and the answer has to start with the letter N. So it might be things that go well with chocolate. Think of something that starts with an N there. Things that are smaller than your fist that start with an N. Things at a zoo that start with an N. And because every time you do it, it's a different letter, you can use the same cards over and over again.
Interesting.
Yeah, and try and think outside the box and think of words that start with N that fit the category, but that other people won't think of. So,
Right. Yeah,
so
I've played that one before.
Oh, you have?
That is
Okay.
a fun
Well,
one.
you know,
Yeah.
that's a good one. It's great to play with kids and grandkids.
Yes, it is. It is.
There's another one called Pocket Posh. It's 1-minute puzzles. Apparently you can get it at Barnes & Noble. I haven't seen it myself, but a woman in one of my classes mentioned it. And it's small, so you can fit it in your purse or your pocket. And it's just, when you have some time, you're waiting in line, so a spare minute and a pencil, and lots of different kinds of puzzles that you can do just to
interesting.
keep stimulated.
As
while you-
opposed to looking at the BlackBerry or the iPhone and.
Well, and there are good ones
Testing.
on those too, though. If you are an apps person.
Well, I
there's
mean
a-
to play the games as opposed to answering emails.
Oh,
or-
yes, right.
that's what I
Yeah,
meant.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, this is
And I
much
know
more
that's a
fun.
whole other discussion as well, the whole electronics and connectivity
And what the brain is doing with that. But I will mention here, people often ask me about multitasking because they seem to think as they're getting older that they're having a more difficult time multitasking. And our research is showing, and there's an article that just came out today in the Wall Street Journal, that really for most people, nobody's multitasking. It's not possible. The brain focuses on one thing at a time. It's just that when we're younger, we can jump from one thing to another much faster. So it seems like we're multitasking, but we're really doing it quickly. And we're much better if we focus, get rid of those distractions, and let the brain just concentrate.
at
on
all
one thing.
ages.
At all ages.
Even though you can jump around, minimize it.
Yes, even your 12-year-old who swears they can listen to music and do homework at the same time.
yeah, well,
when they're doing
we
the
know
homework
that.
and really concentrating on that, they're not hearing the lyrics of the music or vice versa.
Yeah, good. Okay. All right. What's the Play-Doh?
Oh, the Play-Doh, yes. So that's another fun thing that we do in the class with your non-dominant hand.
All right. Here's that left hand. I
You
need
can
to
use both
again.
hands, though, to get the Play-Doh out of the can and to knead it a little bit.
All right.
And then we ask people to take a look at this beautiful crocodile.
I'm going to hold it up here.
Yeah, that's
Let's see if you
good.
can-
And look at the details on him, the scales on his back and his toes and
he's
his
a
teeth.
nice-looking crocodile.
He's a beauty, and the eyeballs popping out of his head. And then to try to sculpt that.
Okay,
And often
with
I have-
one
With one
hand.
hand. I often tell them they have to sit on that other hand because it's going to want to come up and help them to do
Oh,
it.
boy. Can I put it down?
Yes, can you? I don't know if putting it on the. Yes, you'll need to squish it against something. I don't think you can do it in the air.
Let me put it on the paper here.
Okay, and then we go around and look at them because what we're really trying for is levels of detail. So it's observation powers and also your ability then to translate that with that non-dominant hand into
Okay.
something worth looking at. While you're working on that, talk about how using the non-dominant side really does spur creativity for many people. I know some artists who will intentionally draw sometimes with their non-dominant hand just to sketch because it stimulates
And see
something
where
in the
that
creative
gets to them.
centers
Okay,
of the
right
brain.
now I'm trying to multitask,
Yes.
listen to you and do this, and I'm really doing a poor job of it.
Oh, is that going to be your excuse if your crocodile doesn't turn
That
out
is
very well?
absolutely my excuse.
It's tricky, although you're doing pretty well. Sometimes I have people in the class who are artists, and so whether it's with the left hand or the right hand, they seem to do a really good job.
They come up with beautiful little...
And we give prizes in the class. One of the prizes that we like to give is this Brain Games picture puzzles. And these are pictures that look identical at first glance, and then you need to find the differences between the two, which is visual discrimination. It's very hard.
So many of these make me think of some of the games that and puzzles and even homework exercises that my girls used to get when they were in elementary school. So
exactly the same thing.
There's no reason why we just couldn't use the same ones, right?
Absolutely, yes. They worked then, they can work now. As we get older, it may take us a little longer. Our processing speed slows down. That's normal aging, but that's okay.
I'm going to try to use that.
I saw that, trying to get that other hand in there to help out.
This is
a pretty good job, though. You got these things.
You mentioned your classes and your program.
Yes.
So you mentioned in the very beginning that you do take this around the community. So tell us about how people who are interested in having you come and speak to and play some of these games with their communities.
We'd love it. They can call us at the Institute of Gerontology at 313-577-2297.
Okay.
Or find us on our website, www.iog.wayne.edu.
Okay.
And we'll see if we can schedule you in. We also have a whole cognitive neuroscience lab of very high-level people who are doing extremely complicated brain research. But they'll go around and they offer continuing education type professional trainings for people who want to understand the brain at that level.
Okay, very good. But for a community group, a retirement organization, you and some of your colleagues will go in and have fun.
Yes, love to come
Bring
in
some toys
for about an hour and teach people some fun ways to get their brain stimulated.
How's that?
That's pretty good, I will say. Really not bad. You definitely got the spikes in the back. You got the mouth open. I don't see any teeth in there, though.
No,
some people
you
are
see
able
no
to do
teeth,
that.
nor do you see toes.
And no toes, yes. but you got the basic shape, and it was challenging.
It was very
challenging.
challenging.
And you had to do it while interviewing me on camera, too.
Yeah, so there you go.
Made it especially
Multitasking
hard.
or not.
What else can I tell you?
I know you've got some examples of some remarkable stories of elderly people starting to exercise late in age and making incredible strides and accomplishments.
Yes.
Tell us a couple of those. Here we go. Joy
you see
Johnson.
On the screen, Joy Johnson. Yeah, that's a picture. You have to see her to believe her. And I label it It's Never Too Late because I really encourage people at any age to get started. She's 84. She's training for her 25th consecutive New York City marathon. She's run 72 marathons. Didn't even start exercising at all until she was 60. She had been a physical education teacher, but she says she just told everyone else what to do. She never did it herself. And started out walking short distances and now ended up running and does 150 push-ups every day. So the body can come back.
So she may be an exception. Who's Marjorie? Tell us about Marjorie.
Marjorie Newland, I like this story. She's 86. She didn't begin weight training until 72. That is not a photoshopped photo. That's really her. She's won 40 trophies for weight training. And she started weightlifting because she had a cat and she lived in a second-floor apartment. And she knew if she bought 50-pound bags of cat litter, it was much cheaper than 10 or 20-pound bags. And she wanted to be able to carry that 50-pound bag up the stairs. So she went to her local gym and she asked the guys if they could help her. And of course, they kind of laughed at her, but they're not laughing anymore.
Oh, for heaven's sakes. And so where is Marjorie? Where does she live?
She was in Massachusetts.
Okay.
And unfortunately, just recently she passed away, but it was leukemia, and it had nothing at all to do with, it was something that couldn't be helped. But her brain was in great condition.
Those are two incredible examples, very inspiring stories. But I would think that before you get on to a program like this, you probably ought to have a thorough physical exam.
Absolutely, talk to your doctor.
And really know the condition of your heart.
Yes, yes, and check your medications and what you can and can't do. But please don't use the "it's too late for me" as an excuse.
It is not. It is not. As you say,
we can all do something.
Walking
is
something that we should all do and do more of. And that's simple. Just park further away. Instead of looking for that parking space that's closest to the door, get one that's a little further away. Right?
Absolutely. Or if you have mobility issues, when you're watching TV, a can of soup in each hand. Do some exercises like that to get the blood pumping.
Yeah. There's some other simple ones that I've heard you mention, like watching TV standing up.
Yes.
Standing on one foot.
On one foot for balance,
Yeah,
because
that's
balance
right.
is often a problem
Yeah,
for older
that's
adults.
right. Well, we have come to the end of 30 minutes, if you
Wow,
can believe
that
it.
was quick.
So I wonder if you have a general message that people can take away and remember to use on their own families when they're trying to get them to really get off the couch and get outside.
Oh, yeah, the important lesson here is it's never too late. The brain keeps making new cells, do new things, different things, learn new things to stimulate those cells, get good physical exercise so the brain gets all the oxygen it needs, eat well, don't smoke, and get a great night's sleep.
And very quickly, I know we did not talk about Alzheimer's and dementia as a condition that impacts brain memory, but there, you always get that question. So what's the short answer? Can these exercises prevent Alzheimer's?
They cannot prevent Alzheimer's. They can help to prevent other kinds of dementia, though, besides Alzheimer's, and they certainly don't hurt.
Okay.
So I would try them. We don't know what
Good.
prevents Alzheimer's yet.
We're working on it.
We're working on
Okay. Well, I want to thank Cheryl very much for coming and speaking with us. The Institute of Gerontology at Wayne State in Detroit is one of the world's foremost research institutes and educational institutes that looks at the issue of aging. Thank you again for watching Aging Well in America. We do always look for interesting and important events, themes that people in the community are involved in with regard to the issue of aging. So please do send us your ideas here at the War Memorial. Thank you, and we'll see you next time.